How far would you go to protect your child who had been accused of a serious crime? That's a question that a number of Utah parents have had to address recently. Welcome to another edition of Inside Sources. I'm Greg Skordas alongside Holly Richardson. And by the way, we are also watching at this time a potential press conference that the governor may be having soon. We may break away to that. It involves a ribbon-cutting ceremony for some affordable housing that the governor is trying to get set up. But back to what I started with, a father of a young man who is accused or who is a suspect in a murder. This is the murder that occurred at the Ben Lomond High School or near the Ben Lomond High School, has now been charged with obstruction of justice. Now, if you recall, Holly, a young 16-year-old was charged with the murder in that case. It occurred allegedly on October 7th of this year. Isaias Carranza, who I think is 16 or 17, was charged with murder, aggravated murder, a number of counts. That case is moving forward. But there was another defendant involved in that, another young man, and his last name was Renteria. His father has now been charged with obstruction of justice, and it's quite a story here, but they claim that the father and others within the house got this kid on a plane soon after he was involved, or at least a suspect in a murder, and got him out of the state, got him down to Las Vegas, and then flew him to Mexico within a day or two of within the next day after this murder took place. So Dad's now been charged with 2 counts of obstruction of justice, and these are second-degree felonies. They're serious charges because under Utah law, an obstruction charge is charged based on the severity of the charge you have obstructed. So if you obstruct a first-degree felony, that's a second-degree felony. It's one degree less. So very serious charges against a dad who, may have thought he was doing the right thing, but boy, they sure did a lot of work to track him down with all the. I mean, when you go in and out of an airport, there's a fair amount of surveillance and people who know who you are, and the TSA and others keep pretty good track of who's getting on airplanes these days.
Well, so where is this kid now?
Well, he's apparently in Mexico, and we do have. So we have extradition agreements with certain countries, Mexico being one of them. So I'm assuming if the United States says, hey, we want that kid back, or the state of Utah does, the Mexican authorities will help. But right now it looks like he flew into Monterrey, Mexico. Where he is now, we don't know. But his flight went from Vegas to Monterrey on October 8th, which was literally the day after this homicide took place.
So, of course, what that makes me think, especially with this father's involvement, is what would you do as a parent if your child was involved in a crime? So we've had several instances in the state recently, including the one where Tyler Robinson, who's accused of killing Charlie Kirk, what his parents did, right? And that was convince him to turn himself into the authorities.
Yeah, almost immediately. At least that's what the evidence seems to be so far, was that once Tyler Robinson's parents recognized him in the video and confronted him with it, they decided to turn him in, and that saved police a lot of work. It saved a shoot up. You know what I mean? They took him into custody without any confrontation at all. But I do think it's an interesting ethical question that it would be easy for you and I to sit here and go, well, this is what I would do. But really, what would you do? I mean, this is a father whose kid. This is the case in Weber County.
Right.
I don't know. He must have been a teenager because I can't find his name in anything. And the kid's probably going to be facing murder charges. May go to prison the rest of his life if he's convicted.
Well, so we already have one who has been charged with the murder. Oh, I guess I'm seeing he's the father of the teen accused of being one of the 2 shooters.
Correct.
So there were two shooters. Okay.
And his son has not been charged to my knowledge. Now, one thing that could have happened, because they were both so young, he may have been charged in juvenile court. I cannot access juvenile court records, so that child of the man who's been charged may be charged in juvenile court, but I can't find his case.
So there's a KSL story about this that says the stepmom of this young man, I think 16 years old, left on the same flight apparently with him. So
right,
they're both in Mexico right now.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested in hearing from our listeners what they would do if their child was, even if it's not accused of a crime, right? What if your child was accused of bullying? Would you go in and this is what my daughter sees as a teacher, go in and excuse your child Is it boys will be boys, or I don't see that behavior at home, or what is it? Or do you say, look, that's not okay? That's interesting to me. I would not help my child escape the consequences of his or her actions.
I wouldn't either. And I'll just tell you this. And when my kids were younger and they lived at home, they used to tell their friends, hey, my dad's a criminal defense lawyer. If I ever get in trouble, I'm going to be fine. And I told them all, this is a true story. I told them all in no uncertain terms, if any of you ever call me because you're in jail, I will call the jail and make sure you don't get out. I will make sure you sit there for a while. Daddy's not going to bail you out. And I don't know that I would have actually followed through with that, but none of them ever went to jail. So I never had to address it because I told them, don't expect me. If a cop calls me and says, hey, I've got your kid in the car, I'm going to say, take him to jail. We'll deal with it in a couple days.
Yeah,
but I never had to do that.
Well, you're lucky. I have.
No, it's a tough decision. And what do you do as a parent? And by the way, often when we have young offenders who are charged with crimes and they don't have money because of their age, mom and dad will pay the bill. And some parents will say, I'm not going to pay. It's your situation. You do what you need to do, and we'll get you a public defender. And some will say, I'll pay
Mortgage
whatever.
the house.
I'll pay whatever it takes. That's another tough decision you'd have to make. What extent would you go, not just financially, but in other ways to help your child who had been accused of a crime? But I think the fundamental question today is, would you help them get away or help them escape or hide the crime? I just don't think you can do that. Or
even help them commit a crime. Remember, we talked about an incident, and I'm sure you know more details about it, but I think it was the woman lured her soon-to-be ex-husband into Utah so that he could be killed, and her mother and another relative, maybe a brother or something,
helped her out.
Help her to cover it up, and I mean.
I just think it's if you want to be a role model to your kids and send a message to them, enabling them, especially in something this serious, is the worst thing you can do. I mean, turning them in is hard. I can't say that it would be something I would automatically do. I like to think I would do that. I claim right now I would absolutely do that, but who knows unless you
it's interesting. We're going to have a conversation, I hope, later about homelessness and what's compassionate. But even in this situation, I can see where I can see parents saying both sides, well, it's compassionate to help, bail out my baby. Or I can also see parents, which is what I would choose, to say it's compassionate to help them face accountability, take accountability for their actions.
Yeah, and parents kind of come down both ways. And even in between, I'll help my kid under any circumstance, I won't help my kid, or let's just do what the best thing is. So it's a tough decision that I think everybody's got to face. Anyway, if any of our listeners want to chime in on what they would do, text us at 57500, and we'll try to read your comments later on.